Everybody, and welcome to episode number 452 of the Stacey West podcast. I'm your host, Ben, and I'm joined by Charlie, who was fiddling with something off screen then. I don't know what it was. How you doing, mate? You well?
You really cannot be saying that when we have audio listeners with absolutely zero context, by the way.
I absolutely can say that. I absolutely can be saying that.
I was just trying to do some maths because you dropped something on to me about 30 seconds before we went live, and I just found it and managed to do some maths. So, yeah.
Okay. What was it that I said there? I can't remember. Anyway, yeah, how are we doing, mate? You well? You're good?
I'm very well. We'll talk about it in a little bit. I'm sure we'll probably end up touching on it on the podcast. But no, I'm doing very well, thank you. I'm looking forward. I've got a week off work next week, so I'm gearing up to a full weekend. Obviously, going to Cardiff on Saturday. Obviously, I'm away next week as well. So I'm just, I feel like last week of term. Do you know what I mean?
That's understandable because you are a child.
It's exactly that.
I'll allow you to have graduated from fetus because we do technically have a younger member of the
Thank
West
you.
team.
I am now a toddler, and I've had some time at nursery, and it's half term next week for me, and I'm gonna go in and ask my boss on Friday if we can all sit there and play games.
Yeah, take wear your own clothes and all that stuff.
Yeah.
No, it's all good, mate.
How are you, Ben?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah, I've not been up to too much, to be honest. We did the pod on Sunday, and then I went out earlier in the week. I went on the radio. That was it. I was like, yeah. I can't remember what I did, and I was like, yes, I went on the radio on Monday, and that was good fun.
God, there's poor people driving home from work. No, it's great. Those shows are really, really good that Radio Lincolnshire are doing, and you were great on it on Monday as well.
Thank you, mate. I appreciate that. No, it was nice to be sort of in the studio for it. It was like a nice little cozy chat with Julian Buttery from the Trust and Phil Bradley from the Impress magazine. It was good. And make sure when you're at the game, you buy, next home game, you get yourself a copy of Impress as well. It's a good little venture, and it's kind of a replacement for a program. So it's all good. But there's not a huge amount of news. So we did put a call out for some questions in the Discord and in the YouTube chat just before we went live. So we'll answer a few of those, but there's a couple of bits of news first. The first one, season ticket sales are now up to 3,500, which, given that we're on the 4th of March, that's not bad going.
Bearing in mind it was 3,500 yesterday, and the way that they are selling at the minute, we're probably at about 4,500 today. No, just incredible numbers. Obviously, the amount of people that are renewing and buying new season tickets as well, or gold memberships, whether that be upgrades from bronze or silver, or whether that just be totally new membership holders altogether. It's so good. Like we had our fan advisory board meeting on Saturday, and one of the things that we obviously spoke about was the gold memberships and just how well they're selling. And at that point, there was 3,000 sold. 800 of them were new. That's an incredible number. Realistically, we've not seen this sort of an uptake since the National League title winning season, coming into the Football League, or even after that as well. So, yeah, huge credit to, do you know what? Huge credit to the fans. Huge credit to everyone who's willing to part with their money so quickly and not even think about it, because it's a big purchase. Let's be fair. It's a good few £100 for most people, but nobody wants to not be involved next season, and it's great.
And let's remember, nothing is yet confirmed, so there is that as well. Adam says, is there a limit placed on the number on season tickets? I think it's around 6.5 is the limit.
Yeah, so we were talking about this, and I had fully intended on asking the question on Saturday, but unfortunately we didn't sort of have a chance to fully ask that. What I'll do is I will try and find out an exact number. But yeah, we were trying to work it out, weren't we, in the Discord? I think it's somewhere between 6,000 and 6,500.
Yeah, I think it's around 60% of available capacity can be allocated for season tickets, because they need to have obviously a maximum of 10%. Well, they need to offer 10% to visiting fans, and then that leaves 20% for on the day purchases, I guess you can say.
There's plenty of sort of little things with that, but ultimately we're going to be having a waiting list very, very soon, by the sounds of it, for those new season ticket holders and for those who are looking to buy. So if you haven't got one already and you are wanting one for next season, you won't be able to wait until later on in this window, by the sounds of it, although there will be more opportunities later on if people don't renew. Although I'll be honest, don't count your chickens on that one.
Yeah, I can't imagine there'd be too many that won't be renewing. But the other bit of news, I suppose, is that on the club's YouTube channel, there was a nice little interview with Zain Okoro. Obviously, he's out on loan at Coleraine at the minute. Gave a good little insight into what life is like on loan. If you haven't yet seen that, I'd recommend you do, because it's a good little interview with Zain. And that kind of gave us a little bit of a thought of something that we can talk about, is how the loans are actually getting on at the moment. We've got five players out on loan at the minute in Zain, JJ McKiernan, Oshin Gallagher, MJ Kamara, and Charlie Parks. Now, Charlie Parks obviously out on loan at Gainsborough Trinity. It's something that we don't have a huge amount of information on with regards to that league, but we have had a little bit of a chat with a couple of people, and Charlie Parks has he came off the bench last week and scored his first goal for Gainsborough, and he will also be he's on the bench the other night as well. So he's doing okay. Obviously, that's very much a sort of early development loan for Charlie, just to get that taste of men's football, I guess. He seems to be doing okay. On to Oshin Gallagher, a player that I think we're probably going to say this for the next three. Oshin is a player that I'm pretty sure Boston fans would almost wish that they could keep on a permanent deal, because he seems to be doing very well. Obviously, was out at Boston last season before sustaining a bit of a horror injury after a really nasty challenge. But he seems to be doing okay. He's playing full 90 minutes for the past, I'm looking back through the stats at the moment, since he started, essentially. Been playing the full 90 minutes week in, week out, apart from against Tamworth, where he came off with 9 minutes to go. Got an assist against Forest Green, which is obviously going to endear him to any Lincoln City fans that are paying attention. He seems to be smashing it at Boston, Charlie.
Yeah, absolutely. Which again is really, really good to see. I remember we had this conversation actually back last year. It was almost not too far from to the day, when we did our Royal Ramble one. And we were having a loan watch conversation then. And I'll be honest, I kind of said that this season was a bit of a do or die season for Oshin. It was either he had to really impress with sort of one more loan, or we were probably getting close to one of those where it sort of fizzes out a little bit like Hayden can, and then we see him make a move to one of these clubs that he's been out on loan to, and we maybe don't see him in a Lincoln shirt again. In fairness, probably a little bit harsh, and he has had a good year, and I wouldn't be too surprised if he gets another chance. We were talking earlier on his contract. We triggered a contract extension which keeps him at the club until the next summer, so I wouldn't be too surprised to see him kind of stay here, get one more loan, but it needs to be top end National League, low end League 2, if we're going to really be looking at him in a Lincoln shirt again, especially if, and a lot of the questions that you guys have been asking us recently have always started with that phrase of "if we go up." right? But when it comes to these sorts of loan players, we actually very much have to ask that question as well of if we go up, because it changes the dynamic. You're not gonna have EFL trophy. That's a big thing. That's always a really good opportunity to kind of show some of these young lads what it's like to be playing in the first team 11 in a cup competition. We're not going to have the early rounds of the FA Cup either. We'll be entering it at the third round, things like that. So there's going to be less opportunities there. So I think it's one of those where, again, like I say, probably next season's his do or die season in terms of whether or not we see him in a Lincoln City shirt, or even if we just end up seeing him as a professional footballer somewhere else in the EFL, which, from what he's shown so far, we'd very much like to think that he'll make that.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's one that, I think League Two seems like the next logical step, doesn't it? Unless he's, absolutely tearing it up at Boston and, comes back and joins maybe a lower end League One side. Who knows? We shall see. Next one is the aforementioned Zane Okoro out in Coleraine. Again, I think this is, with it being his first loan, it's a really good chat on the YouTube channel with the club, and it's one where he sort of says, I'm playing week in, week out. I'm in the first 11. I'm doing okay, looking at this, I mean, he's got I think he got 3 goals, 3 goals relatively early on in the season back in September. Hasn't had any goals or assists since, but it's definitely seeming to be a really good opportunity for Zane to develop and learn how to play proper football, I guess is probably a bit harsh, but getting stuck into men's football. And yeah, the feedback from Coleraine fans and the press out there certainly seems to be promising for him as well. So one for the future, and maybe another one that would probably end up top end League Two, lower end League One next season if we were to send him out on loan again.
I'm not sure if that would just be ever so slightly too soon. Probably just one step below that of top end National League, bottom end League Two, just because a move into League One is always very, very rare. And realistically, if he was going to be good enough to play bottom end League One, we'd probably want him in and around the squad, so that we can carry on seeing him as well at that stage. But no, look, he was probably the one who people were most excited about going into this season of the young guys going out on loan. We have seen sort of snippets from him, obviously Chesham away in the FA Cup, for example. And a lot of people liked what they saw. He started a few EFL trophy games again as well. And this, again, is still very, very early in terms of his development for a loan out. There was obviously lots of talk in the summer about, actually, should we be keeping him in and around the squad and letting him kind of develop with us a little bit like we saw with Joven? Very rough around the edges at the start, but will be able to sort of benefit from playing and being in and around the squad. Obviously, that wasn't the case. They decided that a loan move was the best option, and obviously to sort of let him go out to Northern Ireland, which is, again, another sort of big step. From what I can gather, quite a physical league out there, so he's definitely going to be learning that sort of extra step up in terms of the physicality that we often see in League One and in the Championship and things like that. So yeah, obviously really impressed with it, and I definitely think that we're going to see at least 1 or 2 more loans from him before we're even talking again about bringing him into the first team squad. But that's probably for the best as well, especially with how well he's already doing. But the club clearly hold Zane in high regards and probably have a real long-term plan for him. So probably don't want to risk that too early by trying to do too much. Obviously, I was just saying there with Joven and with the fact that he developed with that exposure to the first team, with the exposure to playing minutes in the EFL, big difference there was he had to. We had no other option. The only other option at that point was Akiba Delican to play up top. And, all right, he maybe got a couple of goals against Charlton, but that was really about it. And so Joven was the better option there in a way. But for Zane, we've got time. We don't need to rush him. He doesn't want to rush himself of just trying to play as high as he can at the absolute minimum now, but instead take his time to come through.
Yep, no, absolutely. Next up, we have MJ Kamara, or MJ Kamson Kamara. And this is the one where I think, we've been in this position before, haven't we? You in particular have been in this position where you should never fall in love with a lone player, particularly a lone defender. That just sounds familiar to me, Charlie. I don't know why.
What are you talking about?
But MJ has been on loan at Glentoran since the start of their season, and yeah, he's the number of Glentoran fans at the moment that are absolutely raving about him. They may well be in a title race themselves. I think I saw something that suggested that they may even be in for a domestic treble, which is pretty impressive. He's been player of the match quite a few times, and he scored in his last 2 games. So, not bad for a defender from League One heading out into the League of Northern Ireland, Charlie.
Yeah, look, he was a weird one because he really had to fight for his position at the start, and kind of dipped in and out of the team quite early on, but has got this run of form at the minute that, well, is what you dream of for a player you're sending out on loan. And exactly like you're saying, a lot of their fans have absolutely fallen in love with him. It's going to be difficult for them to beat Larne to the title, to be honest, but Larne are in some pretty poor form at the minute. So hopefully, for MJ's sake, Glentoran can take advantage of that and obviously, like I say, win the title. Just again, great to have exposure in that top league. He's still only 20, which for a defender isn't exactly the oldest. So there's definitely a good opportunity for him to follow a similar sort of path to Zane, and next year go out, potentially top-end National League, lower-end League 2, and show exactly what we know he can do and what Glentoran now know that he can do.
Absolutely. And if anyone is interested, Andy has said in the chat, anybody interested, you can catch the Northern Irish games on the BBC iPlayer. Now, I think the one that's probably the most intriguing to me, and the last loan player that we have out at the moment, is JJ McKiernan. Now, JJ McKiernan was, as I think Emily said on Sunday's podcast, the Mr. January in the Lincoln City calendar for 2026. And yeah, I mean, it's fairly well documented that he had a slightly naive interview, shall we say, with the local press down in or over in Burton. And I think, I don't know, it looks to me like his form's dropped off a little bit over the past few weeks. I mean, I think he had a little bit of an injury, then obviously didn't play against us, but he's struggled to make the impact since he's come back in. Played a full 90 twice against Port Vale and Doncaster. I did watch the game, the Exeter Burton game last night, and he came on with about 20 minutes to go, I think, and he didn't really set anything on fire. So, yeah, it just feels really strange because he's still got 2 years left on his Lincoln City deal. But is this going to be a player that we see coming back in to a team that will potentially be in the Championship, having spent 18 months at another club on loan, and has maybe been naive in voicing his dissent with his parent club, Charlie? I'd
be very surprised if we see JJ McKiernan in a Lincoln City shirt again, I'll be honest. A little sort of peek behind the curtain in a way. Back on deadline day, obviously, most of you guys who are watching now or listening now will know that we spoke with Jez George. And we were discussing questions beforehand. And typically, again, I think we've said it before, but when it's Jez on, we normally just say a player's name and just let him talk because he's that good at it, as most people know. But one of the conversations that we were having sort of internally beforehand was we really want to know kind of the club stance on JJ McKiernan. But I was also like, well, are the club actually going to want to say anything sort of publicly on a recorded live stream? But in the end, we said, oh, we'll say it. I'm sure we'll ask him. And obviously, Jez just gave like his full in-depth answer on where he is now, where maybe he knew he wanted to be, why those sorts of things haven't necessarily worked out, and also what's the future holding. I don't think there's any secret that JJ is enjoying his time at Burton. The interview, whether it was the club media spinning it to make them look like the best party, whether it was him actually saying that and then maybe even toning it down. We don't know. We're not in the room. We don't know the exact relationships that those players hold with our club staff, Burton's club staff, etc. But on the face of it, I do think that's a little bit difficult to kind of come back from. And the only way you're going to come back from something like that is if you play to a point where people forget about any negative press, right? Mm-hmm. Like, for example, the Conor McGrandles news, the Conor McGrandles story that was supposedly around when he first left, which, again, it's been spoken about on this podcast, he never actually came out and said that he wanted to go play back up closer to home or anything like that. But that was a story that had sort of been run with in the media, even though it wasn't actually true. Anyway, he comes back and nobody's talking about that right now because of how great he's playing and because of how brilliant he is. So even if people hadn't seen that actually that wasn't the case and they maybe still believed that, nobody's talking about it because of how good he is. And everything I've seen from JJ, I think there is a player in there. I think there's an opportunity for him to be a solid top-end League One player. I'm not seeing anything that shows to me that he would be an incredible option for us in the Championship. And I think, again, that's or towards the top end of League One, if that's where we are next season, anything like that, right? So I would be, like I said, I think he'll probably move on. We'll cash in on him. We've got 2 years left on the deal. We're protected in that sense. But I don't think we'll stand in his way if a decent enough move comes in the summer. And with the way that Burton have thrown money around on transfers over the past season and a half, could end up being exactly there that he goes.
Yep. No, I would agree. I think it's it's one of those. It didn't work out, and that happens in football. I think we've still managed to get more right than we have wrong over the past few years, and that's proven by the fact that we are second in the table. But it's just thought I'd get that in there because it's we're 21 minutes in. I don't think we've mentioned where we are in the league yet, so that's always good. So yeah, that's
a Saturday.
So that is that's where we are with the loan situation at the moment. So we will move into a few questions. We've thrown a few. There's a few been thrown around in the Discord, and there's also a few in the YouTube chat. So this one was from Holton Holgate Joe. Says, Cardiff seem to have more squad rotation than Lincoln. Do you think Brian Barry Murphy knows his best starting 11, or do you think he selects a team depending on the opponents? I suppose that's kind of a bit more a la Michael, although we have seen a pretty consistent choice over the past few weeks. So, yeah, your thoughts on that one, Charlie?
Look, I think any top manager, top head coach is adaptable when they know they need to be. That's the reason that you do win so many games against varying opponents, and it won't always work, obviously, but that ability to change can be a benefit. Now, it's not always a benefit. And I think we've spoken about the fact that we've been really consistent in a lot of our lineups, and we've probably got, Emily went through the stats in terms of those minutes and such on Sunday's podcast. There are kind of 13, 14 players who are really high up in our number of minutes this season. And that consistency has helped them. It's helped get the best out of them. We've talked about Freddie Draper so much over the course of the past couple of years about how will he improve. He improves by playing games and getting a real run into the team. And obviously this season, he's very much had that. And we are seeing the best, we were seeing the best of Freddie Draper that we have done throughout any time of his Lincoln City career. So it's kind of swings and roundabouts. It is a positive for the consistency, especially for a backline. But, and exactly as sort of the question mentioned, there is also a benefit to times being able to adapt to your opponent and to exploit their weaknesses. Now, the ideal scenario, the absolute perfect way, is to be able to adapt, but do it with the same players on the pitch. And that's not going square pegs in round holes or anything like that, but that's knowing that you've got multidisciplined players. And in fairness, I think that's something that we've found quite a lot so far, especially in this run at the moment. We are able to adapt and play ever so slightly differently, exploit different areas of the pitch more with the same players. Sometimes we see our lads stretching the pitch a little bit wider. You see Rob Street pulling out wider to the right, and then either Jack Moylan or Rico Hackett pull further out to wide on the left side. or we'll see us play quite a narrow game, have them two very much tucking behind whoever the focal centre point striker is, and playing that sort of a situation. So that's obviously the ideal scenario. It doesn't always happen like that. Cardiff have so many great players that realistically they can afford to be adaptable and not have to absolutely get the best out of the same group of players week in, week out. But I certainly don't see it as a negative too much. But I also wouldn't say that it points to kind of a perfect scenario.
No, I'd agree with that. I think it's, if you are, you don't get to be sitting top of the table without having a degree of flexibility in you. So, fair enough. Johnny Benson says, which player this year would you like to play, or would you like to see play more? If we have some spare games at the end of the season, this is bonus points for not choosing Eric Ring.
Go on, you go first on that one.
It's Eric Ring. It just is. Like it just is.
For me. It actually isn't for me, and I this is going to sound really controversial. I would prefer not playing him too much, purely because the way I currently see it, I don't see Eric Ring here next season. So in terms of the players that I would like to see, I would obviously really like to see Deji Alarewe. Yep. I would love to see him sort of get a little bit of a run of games in at the end of the season, 2-3 matches, if we had the space for that. Although I don't think we do, because, at the end of the day, even if we keep a 10-point gap going into the last 3 games of the season, we'll still likely therefore be in a battle with Cardiff. And at that point, you are going to change the tune to, all right, let's now go and get the title. Let's have a bit of fun with this, because I'm sure the players are going to want that as well, because again, that club culture and the atmosphere is serial winners. And the only other player, and this is actually unbelievably contradictory to what I just said about Eric Ring, but I don't care, because why not? Adam Jackson, because I would probably again be surprised if we see Adam Jackson in a Lincoln shirt next season. And I would be quite happy to have him here next season, but I just feel that there's a chance that he will move on, and I would like to see him one more time at least start a game before he does.
No, fair enough. I mean, obviously he is under contract, so there is that. Yeah. But yeah, it's it's a totally understandable one. Let's have a quick look. So we've got a couple of fun ones here. So CJ says, what is your favourite type of goal? Is it a cheeky chip? Is it direct from a corner? Or is it a proper thunder bastard? Or another type of goal?
I mean, you can't go wrong with a proper thunderous strike, can you? But it also depends on the context behind it. Like, Evans was just incredible, so much more than the strike itself, because of the context around it. I'm a sucker for a team goal. And I know they're not the ones that are celebrated too much, but Peterborough.
I remember your reaction. I remember your reaction vividly to Peterborough away last season.
Yep.
When we scored that goal with, was it 16, 17 passes, something ridiculous like that?
Yeah.
And I remember your reaction to that. And I wish I was in the room with you when that happened, because just the text the text that we got, it made me think that you'd made a mess somewhere, Charlie.
But I'm a sucker for that. I want to see that. And don't get me wrong, we've scored some great ones of them where the ball is just moved around like it's on string, and you're just toying with the opposition. I absolutely love them. I would probably celebrate them more than I would a proper thunderous strike. Because again, it's about celebrating. I can celebrate the whole team doing it then. It's like if somebody gets an assist for somebody that scores a 40-yard screamer. That's just the stat pad of an assist. That's not an assist.
We'll actually bring up a ridiculous assist a little bit later on in the podcast, because there was one that I think that's not an assist, but
but I do love a team goal.
For me, I think it's I've said this, I think, on the podcast before. One of my favorite moments in football, and when you can just sort of pick out something, my favorite moment, one of my favorite moments in football is the silence between when a player kicks a penalty and it goes in the back of the net. because you can just, even no matter where you are in the ground, you can hear the net ripple, and then all of a sudden it's just bedlam. But that's not my favourite type of goal. My favourite type of goal, it is a thunder bastard. And it's one that's hit from 25 yards on the volley or the half volley, and it goes in off the post or off the underside of the bar, because it's perfect, isn't it? That's the perfect goal. Yeah, basically. I mean, Ricci just hits the back of the net. He doesn't need the post.
Well, yeah, true. Do you know what you were saying there with penalties, right? Now, penalty. I've always had a bit of an annoyance with penalties. When I'm in a ground and let's say there's no commentary or anything like that, and I maybe struggle to see what's happening down the other end of the pitch. Now, a few years ago, we were in League Two, and I can't remember who it was we were playing, but it felt like a big game at the time, and it obviously was. And suddenly, I didn't really know what too much was going on because I was lower 7, and it was all happening down by the Romac stand. And suddenly everybody starts cheering. Boom, brilliant. I get up, atmosphere's buzzing. We've just scored. We've just gone, I think it was 2-1 up late on. Absolutely brilliant. Turns out we'd actually only been given a penalty, which I then didn't realise until about 20 seconds later. And we missed it. I was fuming. So I've always had a bit of an annoyance with penalties. Because half the time I don't know whether it's actually a goal or not.
Yeah, Dave makes the point here. Bruno v Everton with stars in his eyes. That, I think, is one of it's a prime example. It was admittedly inside the box, but the power on that strike. I think if he'd have taken the net and the stand away, it would have still been going now. It probably would have reached orbit because he hit it with that much power. Right, that is 31 minutes. So we're going to take a little bit of a break, and then we'll have a couple more questions after the break, and we shall start to look ahead to the biggest game in English football at the weekend. Not that I'm going to oversell it, but we'll see what happens. So we'll see you in a second.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, folks on YouTube. How are we doing? Right. So let's see. Andy was first in tonight. Says, even all we excited for Saturday? Yes, we are. Flossie was in next, and I'm excited. Good evening, Andy.
Andy, you said you're going on Saturday, aren't you? I think I saw in the Discord. Are you excited as well?
I'm very excited. Very excited. Going on Saturday and Tuesday. It's going to be a big old weekend. Michael V. Anderson says, hi, guys. Hope we're doing well. Look forward to the match against Cardiff up the mighty Imps. We absolutely are. Ian London Imp is in, even all buzzing for the weekend. Can't wait to head up to Cardiff on Friday. David Larder's in, says, even all can't wait for Cardiff. Can't believe we're taking 3,000. It's going to be amazing. I was trying to think of times that we've taken more away, and I'm thinking, excluding the playoff final, obviously, Sunderland's obviously won. Since MK, I can't think of any others where we've taken.
I don't think there's been any since MK.
No, because we've obviously Sunderland, but yeah.
How many did we take for Sunderland?
It was in the thousands. I remember that.
Because I'm not sure. Yeah, I was thinking that.
So anyway, Dominique's in, evening all. Ollie's in. How we doing, mate? Podcast Mum's in. How we doing, Podcast Mum? Leslie's in. Let's see. Rach is in. Who has been trying to sell me in the Discord?
Sorry.
I'll leave that one hanging. Steve Jones is in. Evening all. We are going up. So we are going up. Let's yeah. Let's have a quick look as well. Neil's in. Neil Flowers in. Good to see you on Saturday, my friend. It was all good. Let's have a look. Ben F says, good. I'm not going on Saturday. Hospital appointment. Walter's in. It says, evening, fellas. Richard's in, says, first time live for me. Thanks to Stacey Westford and in-depth knowledge of Lincoln City. Well, it's me and Charlie, so you've got some knowledge at least. That's all good. Mark's in, says, evening chaps, are we ready? It's going to be a big atmosphere. I think really all results are possible. It's about who has the bottle on the day, 100%. And it was really good to see you on Saturday, mate. I have not seen Mark for nearly 20 years. And yeah, it was good to catch up. It really was. Keith's in, says, evening, guys, and everyone watching. Steve's in, says, evening, guys. John's in, beers in the fridge. My favourite reclining chair all set up for the match. bit early for that, isn't it, John? We're Wednesday and the match is on Saturday.
Yeah, but the beer's in the fridge, so.
Well, yeah, as long as the beer stays in the fridge before Saturday, that's the main thing. Phil's in. Let's have a look. Honestly, it's mental the amount of people that we're getting in at the moment. David's in, says play Ryan and Rob together. Yeah, I can see that potentially happening. We'll talk about that shortly. Paul Norton says, favourite type of goal, the gentleman's finish, side-footed and perfectly placed. It doesn't beat a Thunder Bastard. Sorry. Let's have a look. Lee Addison says, should be a good game on Saturday up the Imps. I think the confidence is so high they're not scared of this game. They're absolutely not. 3,120 went to Donny in the 1920 season, apparently. Coventry's a good shout, actually. That was a Tuesday night, wasn't it? When Reedy scored within the first 20 seconds.
Yeah, but it was a Saturday game that got postponed.
That was rearranged. Yeah.
So I can imagine there was a lot of people that had tickets for the Saturday, which I did as well, actually, and then didn't go to the Tuesday night because my dad decided he didn't want to drive.
No,
so selfish. Enough. So selfish.
Ty says, I'm not going to any away games as I'm still missing the wife too much. Still, I'll be sitting in front of the radio with a glass of whiskey in hand. All the best, my friend Ty. Look after yourself, mate. And yeah, come and say hello at a game if you need to have a chat with anybody. We're all imps and all the rest of it. So I'm in either side of an Aldi trip, says Gaz. And Paul says, is that Bish used to be up near us? It is indeed, mate. Yeah. It was a little bit emotional on Saturday. Right. Unless there's anything else, Charlie.
No, I am good to go.
Cool. Right. We will come back in 3, 2, 1. Thank you for bearing with us while we put an advert in the middle of our Lincoln City discussion. We do it every week, but it keeps the podcast going, and it's all very much worth it. So, right, we'll jump back into some questions. Kyle asks in the Discord, he says, if you could choose who scores the goal that sends us up, who would you choose and why? So this one is a proper heart over head moment, I guess, because there's so many little stories in this season, isn't there? And it's like there's one player that comes to mind straight away from I think this has the potential to happen. And then there's one that we'd really like to happen from a Stacey West perspective. But I'll let you answer first, Charlie.
Oh, I really didn't want you to do that because I was still thinking. No, do you know what? It is a heart versus head moment, and sort of the players that you maybe expect to do it, and there are also lots of little stories around it as well. Not a lone player, first of all, and that's no disrespect to the lone players, but I want it to be one of ours, although they are as well. But you know what I mean. And I'd be. Do you know what? I'd probably quite like it to be Conor McGrandles.
Okay.
Outside of, I'm trying to think. So outside of Adam Jackson, he was the only player who would have played for us in the playoff final.
That's a good point, yeah.
And I would just like for him to effectively get his, finish what he started back then. I mean, he's already scored against Blackpool, so he's already sort of put it there. So, maybe the signs are there. I would really like it to be Conor McGrandles, because, again, he was another one, a little bit like, obviously nowhere to the extreme of Ivan, but how many people were sat around after the game on Saturday saying, oh, it's nice that Conor got his goal, wasn't it? Oh, it's nice that he's got one this season now. It's nice, so I would really, really like it to be Conor McGrandles. But there are, honestly, anybody who gets it will be remembered for a long, long time. Although then again, everyone in this team will.
Yeah, I think for me, it's like I say, from a Stacey West perspective, it would be lovely if Eric Rink could come on and score the win, score the goal that sends us up. I don't think that's going to happen. However, I can see another Ivan Varfolomiev pinger, as Gaz would say, to seal a win soon. That would be That would certainly be very interesting. So yeah, right. Let's have a look at the next ones. So there was one from David actually, which I was hoping to get to at the weekend, but we didn't. So tough question to answer. But do you think we'd be established in League One, let alone in this ridiculous situation, if we hadn't been relegated back in 2011? Charlie, let me leave that with you.
Well, I don't know where I'd be. My first game at Lincoln City was the 27th of August 2011. So that was after the relegation. Friday night at home against Stockport, 1-1 draw, where I was mascot and Gaz was poacher, and I've got a photo together at that moment. But no, we probably wouldn't be. I don't necessarily. Yeah, thank you, Rachel. I don't necessarily believe in any coincidences or saying that everything happens for a reason or anything like that. I don't necessarily read into too much of stuff like that and fate. I think you make your own look and things like this, right? But it does help a lot of people to think about in the darkest times that things do happen for a reason, and that there is always a light at the end of the tunnel, no matter how dark the tunnel's getting. And if you'd have turned around and told any Lincoln City fan back in 2011, this is the light at the end of the tunnel, first of all, they probably would have called some doctor to come and check you out. But yeah, they would have used that hope, and that would have driven them on. Now, we didn't have that immediately, did we? Back in 2011 and through those years, and yet people still stayed on, plugged on, stuck with the football club, and are now able to reap the rewards. So, do I think we'd be in the same place now? No. Could it be better? But more than likely, we'd be in a much worse spot. So it's that rise, especially over the last 10 years. It's that rise that we've been able to have. And you can only rise if you are towards the bottom.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it all depends on whether we still would have had interest. Because I think if we'd have, and I think David actually made the point in the Discord that if we'd have survived that season in League Two, it probably would have been more of the same, just rolling over, week in, week out, and season in, season out, kind of surviving as a League Two club. We wouldn't have necessarily had the interest, we wouldn't have had the investment. I think Clive getting involved with the club when he did certainly felt like, okay, this is a non-league team. They've got a link with Everton. I'm an Everton fan. Let's see where this goes. 10 years later, we're on the cusp of the Championship. It was kind of perfect for us then, and I don't think that would have happened if we were still in the Football League at the time. And yeah, those non-league years were awful. I mean, I stopped going for different reasons before we were relegated. But kind of looking on from afar, you watch it and you go, oh, yeah, we're not doing particularly great. And then having the bit of the shot, having the shot in the arm of Clive coming in and then hiring Danny and Nicky and everything like that. I don't think we'd be in the position that we are now, because everything, and I think I said this on Monday night, everything that we're seeing now has been a result of laying the foundations properly over the past 10 years. And you can only build on good foundations when they're put in. And Keith says in the chat, a friend of mine who's a Southend fan, when I asked him about Tilson's appointment as Lincoln manager, told me he'll get you relegated. How true was that? Unbelievable. So right, from discussing nearly surviving in, or the possibility of what would happen if we'd have survived in 2011 in the Football League, to a game on Saturday that is the biggest in the division. We are involved in a genuine top of the table clash in March, Charlie. Number one, how good does that sound? And number two, Are we ready to talk about it?
We are, with trepidation of not wanting to jinx anything, obviously. No, look, Saturday's going to be incredible. When was the last time that we had a game like this? Realistically, MK Dons.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like, even when, obviously, the playoff season was behind closed doors, so we didn't get to experience this. I mean, even going back to that game at home to Sunderland in the playoff semi-final was fantastic, and that was great to be back. But it still had that kind of sense of
this is
weirdness, wasn't it? It wasn't normal. There was no sense of normality. I mean, granted, Saturday also doesn't feel normal, but for totally different reasons. This is a huge game, and it's great that we're all going to get to experience it. Over 3,000, by the sounds of it, are going to be there on Saturday. And do you know what, also? I actually want to give a little bit of credit to quite a lot of Cardiff fans here.
Yeah, absolutely.
We did the preview. The preview is currently out on YouTube for those of you who haven't had a chance to watch it yet. But it was really interesting. We've had a few comments on there from Cardiff fans saying things along the lines of, good luck to you guys. It's going to be a great game no matter what happens on Saturday. Really glad that and they've said, really glad that it's us two that are going to be going up. And contrast that back to the Bolton game and the lead up to that, only a couple of weeks ago. That, just huge credit to Cardiff fans for that one, and especially the vocal minority who normally aren't like that at all and are normally more like what we saw from Bolton fans. Good credit to them on that. It's just going to be a huge game. I can't wait. And you know what? There's a part of me that thinks that everything is going to line up because of how big it is. That we will get something from the game. There's always talk, isn't there, on these big clashes on how cagey is it going to be? Is it going to be one of those where it's all sort of poised on a knife edge, 0-0 up until the 75th minute, and then there's one moment of brilliance that changes the game?
I don't think it will be.
Or there's also talks often of this massive build-up, and then it's, quite frankly, the shittest 0-0 draw that you will ever see. Because how many times do we see that when games are built to the highest of levels? I don't see this.
No.
I don't see that happening on Saturday. Honestly, I see there being goals. They've got an incredible attacking threat. We have turned our attacking game up a whole new level over the past few weeks. Look at Bolton when we played them and how many chances we had. Jack Moylan getting double-digit shots against Bolton in a huge game. And I see something very similar happening again on Saturday. However, they've also got an incredible attack. So it's going to be one of those where I really see defences being stretched and there being some great opportunities and just a real end-to-end game of football that, quite frankly, the whole of League One deserves to watch. Yeah, that's it. You deserve to watch Lincoln City on Sky.
I mean, look, going into it, I was looking through some of the numbers and bits like that a bit earlier on. The team that has conceded the fewest goals in League One is going up against the team that has scored the most goals in League One this season so far. Only two teams have cracked 60 goals so far this season, Charlie, and that is us and Cardiff. Cardiff have only scored 5 more goals than us. Obviously, we have conceded 5 fewer than them. So it couldn't be more balanced. I mean, we've got the exact same amount of goals. We've got the exact same goal difference. And I was looking at crunching some numbers a little bit. Did you know that since we have started our unbeaten run back at the end of November, we are neck and neck on points. We've each taken 40 points since the last game in November. But we are also on +8. Since the last defeat was 29th of November, wasn't it? So since the 1st of December, we've both taken 40 points. We are +8 on them for goal difference. We've only conceded 13 compared to their 21, which also means that we have scored the exact same amount of goals. You couldn't really put a piece of paper in between these two teams at the moment, Charlie. it feels really bizarre to say that, and I know we keep saying that, but it does. It just feels strange to think that we are being looked at by the rest of the division as the form side in the league. If you look at the league table since the 1st of December, we are top of that, I think, based on the goal difference in particular. The form table has us on the top. Look at the calendar year. All of those tables at the moment are suggesting that Lincoln are the form team going into the weekend. However, we know that Cardiff are incredibly dangerous. I watched the extended highlights back of their game at the weekend, admittedly against probably a very underperforming Doncaster side who weren't at their best. It was no, I mean defensively, and this is where I'm going to bring it back to that ridiculous assist.
Yeah.
I don't fully understand how Dylan Lawler's goal was given an assist to Perry NG. Is it Perry NG or is it Because I've heard it in both contexts in commentary.
I've heard it in both. I say NG.
Yeah, okay.
Because they're both capital letters I've seen.
Okay.
Some places I don't know.
But look, Perry NG passes the ball to Dylan Lawler on the edge of the 18-yard box, and Dylan Lawler then goes on a massive run into the opposition box and scores. How is that an assist? How is that an assist? Yeah. But going on, like Dylan Lawler, he had a great game on Saturday. I think he's obviously one of the ones to watch at the weekend. Goal and an assist. Came off on 61 minutes, but I think he probably would have got man of the match from quite a few different people because he was absolutely superb. I think the one thing that is on the minds of a lot of Lincoln fans at the moment is Yusuf Salak. He is obviously been out for a while, but everything seems to imply that he's back in training. Wasn't on the bench on Saturday. So is that something that we might need to be worried about, Charlie?
I'd be surprised if we see him, honestly. Also, just on what you're saying with Dylan Lawler, obviously, absolutely great game from him on Saturday from central defence. The only thing is that was actually his first start since the 4th of January.
Yeah.
The rest of that time, he's not been playing. He's not been getting any minutes. He's been in the squad, but he's apart from kind of a stint towards the end of January, but he's not been playing week in, week out. And now this is something that Tom, when I was talking to him, the Cardiff fan on the preview, he was sort of saying he really hopes that Dylan Lawler is going to get that start again on this Saturday, because first of all, obviously, he's earned it from that game against Doncaster, but he says it's also probably a better pairing at the back for Cardiff. They've got loads of top quality players. Like, you look at their squad, and I remember watching them quite early on in the season, and Cardiff are a weird one because they didn't do too much in the transfer business, but what they did was they kept a hold of a lot of their key men. Ruben Colwell, for example, he has been outstanding for them throughout most of this season, and he is deserving of his role in the team and sort of starting week in, week out, which he has been doing at parts this season. He has had a couple of sort of injury issues recently, but he is now back in the squad and ready to be sort of fit and firing again. So he's one that we definitely need to watch out for. So even though they don't have Salak, they've definitely still got some real quality that can hurt us.
100%.
Which is, again, why I feel like we're going to have a real high-scoring game. And I feel like it is going to be one of those, genuinely, that rewards everyone who's getting to watch that game, whether you're in the stadium, whether you're watching it in the Jolly Brewer fan zone, whether you're watching it at home, whether you're listening to it on the radio. You're going to enjoy this one. And you know, I don't think it's going to be nervy. I just feel like it's going to be, we're going to go out there and enjoy ourselves, because we don't need to look at the table during the game.
Yeah.
Bolton don't play till 3:00, I don't believe. So our game will have been finished. So we're not constantly looking over our shoulder. Like, at the moment, I have got Bolton goal notifications on SofaScore each weekend, because I need to know how they're doing to know whether I can relax with what we're doing. Like, and you know, I also have the Cardiff ones up, but that's more of a little, can we? sort of thing, rather than I'm actually nervous about Cardiff, which again is why I just feel like it's creating this real great atmosphere for Saturday.
Yeah, and I think, look, I agree with you that I don't think it's going to be a cagey game. I think everything seems to suggest that Cardiff aren't particularly bothered about winning the league as long as they go up. They just want to be back in the Championship. Mm-hmm. And we kind of don't care about winning the league as long as there is the possibility that we can still go up. Mm-hmm. So I don't like using the term free hit. We discussed this on Sunday. But it's got to be one of those games where, teams will just be throwing everything at it. And the thing is with Cardiff, we've seen that they can have a weakness. We've seen that there are weaknesses there, because I watched that Plymouth game the other weekend, and there was 6 minutes in that game where there was 3 goals, and it was absolute bedlam. And Cardiff looked vulnerable. They looked like there was massive spaces at the back. And obviously Michael and his team will have seen that and gone, oh, can we try and do something similar? Now, I wonder, Charlie, because obviously the game in December, which put us into second, where we haven't dropped since, by the way, that game, we started that game 4-4-2. Kind of threw a bit of a curveball in, surprised quite a lot of people. What are you thinking, or what are your thoughts, rather, for Saturday? Are we potentially going to be doing something similar? Or is it going to be very much a, as you were, we'll go again with the same 11 that we had last weekend, or do you think we might mix it up a bit?
In terms of the personnel, obviously the question mark there will be Jack Moylan.
Yes.
In terms of the shape, I don't see there being too many changes at all, to be honest. I think it will be a bit of an as you were, or at least we'll start like that. Whether it shifts a little bit in possession as the game goes on, who knows? But I don't think we're going to change too much. You talked there obviously about it being a free hit, but without saying that, because nobody says they want to go and they don't mind losing, because obviously you do. I'm saying all of this now and saying it's building a great atmosphere and it's a great opportunity to watch really good quality game of football. But if we come out of that losing 3-1, I'm probably also going to be a little bit pissed off, because I will. No, I will. I will in the moment. I can,
I'm not disagreeing with you. I would. You'd feel it sting coming out of the ground.
Yeah, we can be objective about it later on and say actually it doesn't matter too much, and the pain would probably be eased if Bolton go ahead and lose their game on Saturday afternoon, and then it doesn't really matter as much in all of this. But in the moment, I know it will really, really piss me off if we do go ahead and lose the game. But the reason why I definitely don't want it to be seen as a free hit too much, and the reason why I definitely don't want us to lose the game, is because of that 17-game unbeaten run.
Yep.
The minute we lose one, we lose that edge, that relentless edge, and we potentially lose a wheel. And that would be the only concern. Then at the moment, 17, if we can go ahead and get a draw, beat Cardiff, whatever, get to 18 games unbeaten, then we're looking at, right, now we can beat the club record now. We can go away to Exeter. We've still got that on our back. We're ready to go here. Let's get this. Okay, we've matched it. 19, right, Stockport home. This is the chance. This is the big one where we can now beat that record and all of this. And they talk all the time, and the club staff say all the time, one game at a time. We're not looking too much into things like this. We are simply enjoying the football. We're doing everything Saturday to Saturday, Saturday to Tuesday, whatever. But from a fan point of view, let's be honest, those are the moments you live for, those record beaters. Those will remember Stockport at home. Do you remember that game where we managed to beat the club record? Do you remember Cardiff away where we kept it going, where not many people thought that we would? Little things like that. So, yeah, I wouldn't want to lose just because you never quite know how that could go. And how your teams could start to sort of change if any mindsets start to change. Not that I think they would, but it's always a risk. So definitely just want to try and get a result out of it. Exactly the same as what my feeling was when we played Bolton.
Yeah, look, I'm not saying that it's, if we lose, fair enough. I think I get what you're saying, but from a practical standpoint, you look at it, you go, okay, if we were to lose on Saturday, arguably, we've got a very winnable game next Tuesday. Mind you, we said that when Exeter came to the bank, didn't we? We battered them for 90 minutes.
That was a winnable game all for the first 93 minutes of the game.
Yeah, we battered them for 93 minutes, and they got, I think it was one of their only 2 or 3 shots on target in the entire game. But look, it is going to be huge on Saturday. I mean, let's just look at some of these numbers. And I do find it funny still. I do find it funny that I think this is going to be the 3rd time this season where, due to the fact that the games have changed throughout, that this is going to be the top versus the bottom of the table in terms of possession. Cardiff currently top in the table with 61.7% possession. We're bottom of the table with 42.7%. Northampton are just above us with that. But again, we know what to do when we don't have the ball. We can get the ball back and we can hit teams where it hurts. And I think that's going to be, we've said it all season. It's just going to be a massive, massive thing if we can continue to do that. I think one thing that we might have to potentially worry about is the pace that Cardiff have, because they do have quite a lot of youth in their side, and some of those players have got some pretty quick legs in them. So,
Tendai Derek was as quick as any youngster.
Well, he is, but he's also not playing centre back, Charlie. So it could be an interesting.
Yeah, but normally the pace comes from out wide. So
yeah, it's very true. But I will say last night. Actually, no, I won't, because that's looking ahead to Exeter rather than Cardiff. So I'll not mention that. But look, I think we just know it's going to be a big game, and it feels odd to say that it's going to be a big game for Cardiff. But I just, the more things go our way at the minute, I don't want to sit here going, yeah, but if we win. Yeah, but if we win.
Yeah, let's talk about that next week when we have.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
But if we win, we go top of the table, and that's really scary.
If we go 1 goal up and go top of the table, you know what the song will be, you know what the atmosphere
100%.
will be, and it will be brilliant. And like I say, I'm more than happy if we do go ahead and draw. I definitely don't want to lose, because I think, in fact, Flossie summed it up pretty perfectly in the chat here, saying that retaining the run is probably bigger than what the result is. And I very much agree with that. For me, it's about keeping that going. It's that word again, relentless, which is being spoken about constantly with Lincoln City at the moment. I don't want us to lose that. So that's my biggest kind of concern and worry going into Saturday. But it's like a small little niggle. The rest of me is just excited for the game, because in all of the big moments so far this season, this team have stepped up.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, Charlie, let's have a starting 11 from you, and then let's see if we're going to go for, if we're going to be bold enough, Charlie, to put our necks on the line and give a prediction.
I have a prediction, which I am more than happy to give, but like you say, we can happily go for the starting 11 first. So, I think in goal we're going to see Zach Geacock. So in goal, George Rickens, obviously Derek, Hamer, Bradley, and Reach. McGrandles and Ivan, I think almost certainly in midfield. Always there's a chance whether Tom Bayliss gets in, but I don't see it from the start in this game. Mm-hmm. Ben House and Rob Street, definitely. Obviously, there's a big question mark over Jack Moylan, which we know. Is he fit to play? If he is fit to start, he plays and starts. If he isn't, Ryan One plays in his place.
Okay.
And then Rico Hackett will take the other position. Okay. There is a chance that if Moylan is fit and can play from the start, then we might see Ryan One play in the Hackett position. But I have a feeling that Moylan and One will probably be interchanging that position. So if Moylan is fit, he starts in it, plays 60 minutes, and then Ryan One comes on, or Ryan One starts because Jack Moylan isn't fit.
Okay. Mine is very similar, but again, it will all depend. It will all hinge on whether Jack Moylan is not fit. Malcolm makes the call in the chat that you could see Dom Jeffries come in, given the fact that he came on Saturday for
And
Jack
played
Moylan
very well on Saturday.
and was superb.
Yeah.
He was genuinely superb. But for me, I kind of think, and this might be being a little bit harsh to Rob Street, that if Jack Moylan's not fit, we see Ben House moving inside into the 10. Rico Hackett goes back out on the left. Rob Street drops to the right. And Ryan One comes in up top.
Yeah.
That's my thought, because I just think if we're obviously missing Freddie Draper and his physicality at the minute. I think Ben House in the 10 gives you that option. He gives you that, the physical nature of a Freddie Draper for somebody to run onto. And in my eyes, right now in the squad, who's better to run onto a ball that's been won by a very physical Ben House other than Ryan One?
I wouldn't be too surprised if we saw Ryan One play out wide and Rob Street play a little bit more central as well. Because again, if you're looking to utilise One's pace out wide, then that's always an option as well. But I very much would kind of interchange those two. Again, look, we've got such a strong squad in there. Just a comment on the Dom Jeffries. I think even if Moylan isn't fit, I would say it would be very, very unlikely that Dom Jeffries starts, purely because I think his versatility coming off the bench and being able to fill in a number of different roles is probably more valuable on Saturday than him starting in the game, to be honest. So I would say that. But that would really be it. And we're gonna obviously make subs. We're gonna see Alfie Lloyd in the game at some point. There is a comment here about Freddie Draper. We've not heard anything. I'll be honest, I'm not expecting Fred on Saturday. I feel like we probably would have heard something by now. Although press conferences are tomorrow, but I would probably expect we would have heard something by now. Unless actually, he's not actually injured. And what's happened is they've just sent him away on a 2-week holiday so he can surprise Cardiff on Saturday. I can drink, can't I? But that's obviously that won't be the case. That won't be the case. No. So I probably wouldn't expect to see him in the squad because, like I said, we probably would have heard something. But for me, it's more or less as you were from Saturday, just Moylan and One kind of interchanging that role depending on who is fit.
Nope, fair enough. And let's go with it then, Charlie. What is your prediction? I know you did put one out on the preview.
I did.
Are you gonna keep that the same?
I absolutely am. I'm sticking with it, and I'm going to do it again when we put out our Instagram and TikTok prediction as well. I said there's going to be goals in this, and I really do believe it. The last time I predicted this scoreline, it almost happened. Tendai Dorico decided that he was going to score another one in the last minute and ruin my dreams. 4-2. And honestly, it could go either way. But I am going to go 4-2 Lincoln City.
Okay. I think I'm going to do a Gaz this week. And I'm going to get splinters right in my arse. I'm not going for a run. I'm going to get splinters in my arse. And I think I'm going to say a 2-2 draw.
Does Gaz normally get splinters in his arse?
Well, you're sitting on the fence, aren't you?
Yeah, but
yeah.
A result. There's not a single result that people will be able to predict on Saturday. Where there was a Cardiff fan in the preview that said, "I think 3-1," and I even sat there like, I can't argue with that. No. I could very much see that happening. Obviously, I don't want it to, but it really could go either way. But I definitely do think there's going to be goals.
Absolutely. Well, look, we all know how big this game is on Saturday, whether you are a Lincoln City fan, whether you're a Cardiff City fan who's joined us for tonight. I have seen a couple in the chat, and it's very much appreciated that you've joined us, folks. We're all friends here. It's all good. But look, regardless of where you're going to be on Saturday, the game will be on TV. So get it on, get yourself down to the pub, get the radio on, whatever you can do to watch it, and hopefully 3,000 imps will see us being cheered on to the first of 8 wins that we need to guarantee promotion. And also the first win that may see us go top of the table. I don't think there's anything left to say, is there, Charlie?
Yeah.
Well, there's one thing. Up the Imps.
Up the Imps.